Hey everybody, it's Mandy from Travel Forge. So today we're going to be talking about peaches. It's peach season. Last week I got 6 boxes or 3 bushels of peaches at the produce auction. I got them for $13 a box, which is fantastic. That's $26 a bushel, which is so good. Or at least in this area it's good. They were seconds. There were some fuzzy ones. It really wasn't that bad. Of course, I bought them on a Thursday, and then we were leaving town for Friday and Saturday. So thankfully, the boys got my 3rd fridge in, and that fridge, or the goal at least of that fridge, is going to be that I can have it open during canning season, that when it gets to be super late and I'm not quite done, I can fridge something overnight or whatever. It's okay. Jamie's helping me get started with peaches. So when I have seconds like this, which we almost always buy seconds because peaches are expensive. Now, we have 4 peach trees, best we can tell, in the backyard. 3 or 4, I can't remember. One of them is loaded with peaches this year. We're totally new to fruit trees. We just kind of figured we'd let it do its thing and see what happens. We bought this house in February. We don't know how it was treated in the past. But it has a ton of peaches on it. From what I gather from some friends, we probably need to prune it a little bit better for next year. We hadn't pruned it at all. This was, like I said, all new. Nonetheless, I bought peaches this year because I only had like 30 quarts on the shelf and I knew that was not going to be enough. With a family of 6, we probably need at least 1 to 2 quarts of peaches a week. I'm going to see how far these 6 boxes get me once I add these to the shelf. I would love to have like 100 quarts on the shelf. That would give us about 2 quarts a week. I do have peach sauce on the shelf still from last year, which we could use in smoothies instead of wasting them on, like pouring in cut peaches into a smoothie, which we could do obviously, but sometimes we just like peaches as a side. So what my plan is, and what I typically do when I get seconds, is I'll go through, and some of them are still hard, as in they're not ripe. So what I'm going to do is put those in the fridge, and then we can eat those fresh, because there's just not anything quite as delicious as a fresh peach in August. So I'll put some in the fridge that we can just eat fresh, and then the rest of them we will cut out the spots, feed those to the chickens, and then get these canned. So I'm going to show you how to can them. I am not very picky about the way I cut peaches. So I don't do like perfect halves. We don't do like nice tidy slices or anything. If you know me, this is my personality and this is just kind of how we operate. No one cares when you pour it into a bowl as their side with dinner or with on top of their oatmeal or whatever. No one cares if all the slices are identical or any of that crap. So we are just going to get these cut up. And when you buy seconds, it's kind of just the nature of getting seconds. Not everything's going to be perfect and pretty, but I would rather fill the shelf with good food that I didn't have to spend as much money on than have these perfectly tidy little slices in a jar that who cares if, like, whatever, it doesn't matter. So that's what we're going to start with. Jamie is over here getting started. We're going to put our good peaches in here. We're going to put our chicken scraps in the box. See how far these get. So if you're not familiar with peaches, there are Freestone and not Freestone. I usually try to buy Freestone, which means it comes out pretty easily. Typically a lot of meat doesn't stick to it. You can do it the other way. It just might be a little bit more work. So as I mentioned, I'm gonna put just like a handful of peaches that are still hard in this drawer and put them in the fridge so we can eat those fresh. As I say all the time, my chickens are happy to eat any of these scraps, even if it's a bad spot or whatever. They're not going to eat anything that they don't want to eat. So if you don't have chickens or pigs or something, you can feed this to your compost, certainly. If you don't compost or you don't have chickens or something, ask a friend or a neighbor that has chickens or gardens. They will probably be more than excited to take your scraps. My mom saves scraps for me. Missy will save scraps for me. So, and feed them to my chickens, and it's always awesome to supplement feed. All right, so as I go through these boxes, there are some that are pretty firm. So instead of wasting time and frankly losing some of the peach, the good part of the peach, I am going to boil some water and put some in and let, have those things working while Jamie and I work on cutting also. Like I said, when you get seconds, you kind of get I don't know, I hate to say it's a bunch of waste, but there is a little bit more waste. I mean, I paid less for them. And sometimes there's an argument that seconds are not always the way to go, because sometimes you lose more than if you just got first. Peaches are always a pain, in my opinion. I mean, they are totally worth it and they're delicious, but they are super time consuming. I really only try to ever do them once a season because they are so time consuming. I really don't need like peach butter or jam or anything because I already have a ton of jam on the shelf. So I think doing slices is the way to go for us this year. But I got my pot of water here. I'm gonna let that come to a boil, drop some in, and then I'll show you how that process goes. So I want to show you how easily these skins peel off when you boil them. So you can see it just peels right off. The other nice thing is, as long as you get Freestone peaches, boiling them, I mean, Freestone should, in theory, come right off of, like, the pit should come right out. Sometimes that's the case, sometimes it's not. This one had a soft spot in it. But anyway, it should come pretty easily off of the pit. These skins should come off pretty easily. So this part should be a little less painful than when you cut them, you know, just with a knife roll. Okay, so obviously these are done. Yesterday was a rough day. So watch my video about greed. That'll give you the premise of yesterday. But while I was doing peaches, I cracked the freaking countertop. I'm assuming what happened is, and Matt said this, and I'm like, yep, that's probably what happened, is the countertop was probably cool because we have the air conditioning on, and I put the hot peaches on it, and then, like you shouldn't do with jars, I cracked the countertop. So I was super frustrated about that and didn't finish recording the rest of what would happen to finish canning the peaches, though you already got all the important parts. Basically, once we finished skinning them and taking out the pits, we sent all the scraps out to the chickens. They devoured them. They thought they were delicious. We filled the jars. I actually had enough peach juice in the bowl that I didn't even need to add any water to these. If I was a little short on headspace, I would have added some water, but I really didn't need to. I tend to do headspace on peaches at 1/2 inch to maybe 3/4. They tend to get siphoning sometimes. I had tons of siphoning last year. This year I did about a 3/4 inch headspace. I think the book calls for 1/2. I do a teeny bit more than 1/2, and every single jar sealed. The other really super important thing, which you should do every time you're canning, but definitely when you're doing something sticky like peaches, is when I do peaches, I wipe the rims with just a wet cloth first, because it never fails that you have like peach, you know, strings and mess across the top. And then once I know I have all the goopy stuff off, maybe I'm just messy, I don't know, it could just be me. I did use a funnel and still made mess, but Jamie and Zuzu helped, so that probably contributed to the mess. Nonetheless, take your paper towel with your vinegar or a clean rag with vinegar and wipe the top so that you're sure they're super, super clean, because if there's any kind of sticky residue on the top, especially with peaches, it may cause your seal to not, or it may cause it not to seal. So, super important when you're doing peaches. These are so beautiful. As I mentioned, we don't add sugar, we don't add fruit fresh, we don't add any of that other junk. We literally just do peaches like this. My peaches that are in the pantry still look just like this. They're not brown, they're not discolored in any way, and I don't use any extra additive, anything. These are literally just peaches in the juice that it made in the bowl while we were cutting them up. So that's how you do peaches. As always, if you have any questions about anything, let me know. If you're not familiar with the Every Bit Counts Challenge, that starts today, August 1st. And Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead does that. It's super fun. I think I've done it the last 2 years, if I recall. And basically, you just try to preserve something every single day, whether it's a medium-sized project like 27 quarts of peaches, a gigantic project like 100 quarts of tomato sauce, or it could be something as simple as cutting some, I don't know, sage out of your garden and hanging it up to dry. Just any little thing you can do. You could do like a small batch of jelly, or a small batch of, Applesauce seems silly to do a small batch of, but maybe you dry some apple slices in the dehydrator so you have dried apples this winter or something. It can just be as small as you want it to be, whatever you have time for. If you work outside your house, maybe you do something small like in the evening and maybe a bigger project on the weekends or something. So it's super fun. A lot of people participate. You can look up the hashtag #EveryBitCounts challenge and you'll see tons and tons of inspiration for this. So try it out. It's super fun. If you have any questions about canning peaches, let me know. We'll see you next time.